Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you can say that, but I will be held responsible for you breaking your vows, so you should not go. Gadadhar Pandit said, I'm not going with you. I'm just going alone to see your mother, Sachi Devi, and the river Ganges. So you go, and I'll be a little distance away. So the Lord went, and he had his whole group of people coming with him. It was growing every moment, and Gadadhar Pandit was just outside of the group, a little to the side, a little behind, going alone. They came to Kathak, where in the courtyard of the Gopal deity, Ramananda Rai called for King Prataparudra. Now we know the story of the past, how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not meet the king because he considered him a gross materialistic person due to his position, and considered that a sannyasi should not be mixing with such a person. Not only did he test the king, but he showed the world what was the fiber of the king's devotion. First thing the king said when he heard this is, I will give up my kingdom, I'll give up everything and become a beggar, if that's what is required to get the mercy of the Lord. And he was actually willing to do it. The devotees had to beg him not to leave his palace and give up his kingdom. That was how much he valued service to the Lord. Greater than any power, any prestige, greater than any wealth, is the opportunity to serve and to please. When we speak about seva, seva doesn't mean just doing your duty. Seva is the most precious, valuable thing that one could possibly attain within this creation. Even an unrivaled, undisputed king who would never have to leave his position till death was willing to give it all up and become a beggar sleeping in the street, going door to door for food, to please the Lord and get the opportunity for seva. But the devotees kept him in his place. And the Lord tested him so many ways, and ultimately, during the Ratha Yatra, by the blessings of others, the devotees, the king disguised himself and got to massage the Lord's legs and was embraced by the Lord. And from that point on, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood the king and showed the world the king's true devotion, true renunciation. And then he openly mixed with the king. In Kathak, King Prataparudra came, and he brought all sorts of prasad for the Lord and all of his devotees from Jagannath's temple. And when Lord Chaitanya saw him, the king bowed down at Lord Chaitanya's feet. The Lord Chaitanya lifted him up and embraced him. They both bathed each other with their tears. It was such a beautiful experience. And then King Prataparudra told his chief ministers that Lord Chaitanya is going to Vrindavan. So as long as he's traveling in my kingdom of Orissa, we should have the best facilities for him. Immediately go. And this was fast management. This was faster than our yatra management. He had his ministers and his kingdom, because Lord Chaitanya was going to be in each place just a few days from then. He had them build beautiful homes, storage houses to hold grains and vegetables, and then kitchens to make massive, wonderful, incredible feasts for Lord Chaitanya and all of his devotees and everybody with him. And he had arranged royal boats and other such boats to be at every river to bring the Lord across the rivers. And he said, wherever the Lord crosses the river, he told his ministers, I want you to build a memorial so that the whole world for all time to come could go there and worship the Lord who took his bath in that place. And King Prataparuja said, and I want to die in that place. So the devotees, or the ministers, they went out and started building houses, building kitchens, building granaries, building guests, everything, arranging boats. He practically, whatever was in his treasury, he wasn't budgeting funds for that purpose. It didn't matter if nothing was left, because he understood, if you please the Lord, samsiddhir haritoshanam, that's our success. If Krishna's pleased, if Lord Chaitanya is pleased by the prasad we offer and by the accommodations for his devotees, then we don't need armies. Who's going to conquer us? We don't need anything. This was the king's mentality. And that's why he was unrivaled and never defeated at any time. Even though there was Mughal conquerors trying to destroy him and other, Vijayanagar and other people who were trying to take over his kingdom constantly, nobody could touch him. Because he was protected by the Lord. And as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the king, he embraced him, and the king was feeling such deep separation, but at the same time such a great happiness that he had the opportunity to serve. Because real relationship is in our service, not just physical proximity. The famous statement of Srila Prabhupada, where he was telling devotees that you really associate with your Guru and Krishna through the purity of your service, your seva, not by physical proximity. He said this in Calcutta. And there was a big Calcutta mosquito on Srila Prabhupada's body. And he asked, physical proximity, who's the closest person in the world to me now? And he said, this mosquito. But he's not giving me happiness. He's just trying to suck my blood. So don't be mosquitoes. Our real connection is through following the instructions. That is seva. By tadvidi pranipatina pariprashnena sevaya upadekshati te, the Bhagavad Gita Krishna tells. When we approach a guru, we inquire submissively, and then we follow the instructions by performing seva. That is the way of perfection. So, Lord Chaitanya left King Prataparuja, but King Prataparuja put his top ministers, Harichandan and others, to go with the Lord and arrange everything for him, to make sure everything was all right for his devotees as long as he was within his kingdom. And then the Lord got on one of the king's boats to cross the river in Cuttack. And he saw a little distance away Gadadhar Pandit. For the first time in his journey, he called Gadadhar. He said, I want to speak to you, come here. Gadadhar came. And the Lord said, now you have fulfilled your purpose. You intended to break your vow, so your intention was fulfilled. Now you've done what you're supposed to do. Go back and worship Gopinath. That is your place. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I will not be condemned by allowing you to say another word. And then his boat took off. And Gadadhar Pandit fainted. Lord Chaitanya told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, please take care of him and bring him home. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Gadadhar Pandit, you are so fortunate to see the Lord's love for you. To protect your promise, the Lord is going through so much pangs of separation himself from you. Just as in Kurukshetra, to protect the promise of Bhishma, Krishna broke his own promise. Krishna promised, I will not lift a weapon and I will not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. But Bhishma, he promised, I'm going to make Krishna break his promise. And Bhishma was fighting with Arjuna and had Arjuna in a state where he was just about to be destroyed, killed by Bhishma. Of course, Bhishma knew he couldn't kill Arjuna because he knew Krishna would save him. And Krishna lifted a wheel of a chariot and attacked Bhishma. Bhishma was shooting arrows at Krishna in ecstasy. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that those arrows, because they were shot into Krishna's body with pure love, they felt like, to Krishna, they felt just like you or me showering his body with the petals of lotus flowers. Or he uses the example that when someone bites you, it really hurts, and you don't like it. But if a lover bites you with love, it feels nice. Brahmacharis don't understand this. Even I don't understand it. Somebody in this room may understand this. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur understood it, and he was a renunciate his whole life. So we, as Gaur Gopal Prabhu was saying, we could see by hearing. We don't have to do it, we just hear about it, okay? So Bhishma, this was the love between him and Krishna. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, similarly, the Lord has protected your promise and and he is going through so much separation and feelings from you in doing so. And the Lord continued his journey. And everywhere they went, King Prataparuja arranged chariots and elephants to bring massive quantities of Jagannath's prasad, fresh from the temple, waiting wherever Lord Chaitanya was stopping with his devotees. So it was wonderful. And then they came to the last place at the border of Orissa in Bengal. That was the end of King Prataparuja's kingdom. He couldn't help the Lord beyond that. And there was a man who they called Mahapatra, who was assisting, and he was from that last town. And the border was a river. He told Lord Chaitanya, you can't cross this river, not now. It's very dangerous. There is a Yavana king. Not a king, a governor, who's under the Mughal emperor. And this man, he's constantly drunk with intoxicants. He has armies of dacoits, murderers, criminals, robbers, who rob, steal, and kill for no reason at all. And he will not allow anyone to cross this river into his province. And if anyone tries, they'll be tortured, they'll be killed, they'll be plundered. So let's wait a few days and let me try to somehow or other negotiate with him and make some sort of a agreement where he'll allow you a safe passage. I cannot tell you enough how dangerous and cruel this man is. And he hates Hindus. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed kirtan with his devotees. Meanwhile, this Yavana governor, this cruel drunken man, he understood something was happening there, so he sent a spy. The spy came back and told the governor, you won't believe who I just saw there. He said, who did you see? He said, there's this sannyasi, renunciate. He's a Swami, but not like any other Swami I've ever seen. He's beautiful. And he's constantly chanting the holy names of Hari and Krishna. And the person kept saying, Hare Krishna. The governor was watching. What's happened to you? You never did this before. He started crying, Hare Krishna. The governor said, what's going on? He said, this person, there's torrents of tears coming from his eyes. There's such love in his heart. This person is the Supreme Lord. I know it. I know it. Even though I may be a Muslim, I know this person is the Supreme Lord of our religion and every religion. The ecstasies of the love that's manifesting from him, no one has ever seen. And he started describing in detail the features of Lord Chaitanya. His beautiful lotus-like eyes. And his wonderful relationship with his devotees in kirtan. And just by hearing the Lord's activities and qualities, this Yavana king's heart filled with love. And he sent his own secretary across the river and told the Mahapatra that the governor wants to come here to have darshan of this Swami. He came across, and as soon as he saw Lord Chaitanya, he fell down and offered his prostrated obeisances, started weeping and crying in ecstatic love, chanting the holy names. The Mahapatra was shocked. The governor was actually exhibiting the highest perfection of yoga, prema bhakti, ecstatic love. What has happened to him? And then the governor asked Lord Chaitanya, after very humble prayers, I am so sinful, but I vow to you I will never engage in any cruelty or any sins ever again. I'm your servant. Please tell me, how can I serve you? And in this instance, Srila Prabhupada explains that the real fruit, the real sign of spiritual progress that comes through chanting God's names is our enthusiasm to serve. If we are not enthusiastic to serve, however many times we chant God's names, we're not really making any true spiritual progress. In fact, Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas, they have even given the spirit of a translation to the Maha Mantra. My dear Radha and Krishna, please engage me in your loving service. And when we actually chant with great sincerity, enthusiasm to serve without selfish desires awakens in our hearts. So everyone was very, very pleased that just by hearing about Lord Chaitanya and chanting the names of Krishna by the influence of Lord Chaitanya, this governor awakened a deep enthusiasm to render unconditional, unmotivated, unselfish service. And Mukunda, the Lord's associate, he told the governor that it's very dangerous where we're trying to go. Please arrange for Lord Chaitanya to have a safe passage. And this governor was so enthusiastic to serve. He said, I'll be back. He said, I will send boats tomorrow, and I'll make sure you get past all of this dangerous parts without any trouble. And the next morning, the governor's own boats came to bring Lord Chaitanya across. And when they crossed the river, the governor himself offered his life and soul in devotion. And he had so many boats around. He said, I had this boat specially made only for you. And I'll travel on this boat with you. And because for a long distance from here on this river, there are cruel pirates who will kill for nothing, I will have 10 boats of my soldiers around you and your devotees to protect you, and I'll be there as well. They came to a certain place where they passed through the dangerous area and came into another kingdom. And the Lord Chaitanya said goodbye to the governor, and the governor, with tears of love, left his heart with the Lord and went back to his place. Then the next place the boat went with Lord Chaitanya was Panihati. There Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent 2 days with Raghava Pandit and his sister Damayanti. And when he came to the Ganges in Panihati, so many of the local devotees from there came to join the Lord's party. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then stopped in Shantipur and visited Advaitacharya and his family. And from there, he took a boat across and came to Vidyanagar, one of the islands of Sri Navadvip Dham. This was the first time Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to Navadvip since he took sannyas. He went to the house of Vidyavachaspati, who was the brother of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. At that point, hardly anyone knew that Lord Chaitanya had come. In fact, no one from Navadvip knew. Lord Chaitanya came to Vidyavachaspati's house. He was shocked. Here is my Lord. He offered his pranams, his dandavats at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord Chaitanya picked him up and embraced him. And Vidyavachaspati said, my house, my family, my everything has become perfect because you have come to accept our service. Lord Chaitanya said, I am on my way to Mathura and Vrindavan. But on the way, I wanted to see my mother Sachi and the river Ganga. So I'll be here for just a few days to bathe in the river Ganges. I don't want anyone to know that I'm here. Keep it a secret. Vidyavachaspati said, no one will know that you are here. The Lord spent a couple days there, very quietly. But how long can you hide the sun from shining? Soon the word spread that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has returned to Navadvip. It spread like the wildest of all fires. There were hundreds and thousands of people rushing to the house of Vidyavachaspati. But how to get there? They were running. First there was hundreds, then there was thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds and thousands of people running. The roads were so packed with people running that nobody else could fit on the road. People were running through fields. The fields were so packed, nobody could run in the fields. They were running through the jungles where there were thorn bushes. And they were running right through the thorn bushes, and the thorn bushes didn't even hurt them because they were so absorbed with the idea of seeing the Lord. Running, running, running. As they were running, they were all speaking to each other. When I see the Lord, I'm going to beg him to forgive me. I blasphemed so many people in the past. I was very cruel. I engaged in so many immoral activities. I'm going to beg him that I may always remember him. I may always serve him with love. Another person said, my father is a gambler. I'm going to beg him to stop my father from gambling. They were talking to all the benedictions they were going to ask from the Lord when they received, and they were more and more enthusiastic. When all these people almost at the same time came to the river Ganges, they realized they had to cross it. And in India, for some reason, hardly anyone knows how to swim. Even today, people living on oceans and near rivers, we go on yatras, and we had to make a rule, please try to learn swimming so you don't drown. And some did, but most they're too afraid. So what to speak of 500 years ago? There was hardly a one of these hundreds and thousands of people who knew swimming, so how to cross the Ganges. And they saw some ferries. And these ferrymen are always trying to fill up their boats, and it's very difficult because those are quaint places, Navadvip. But within seconds, thousands of people were on the ferry. And within seconds, the ferry disintegrated. Just too many people. It just caved in and all of it fell to 1,000 pieces. And the ferryman was now, what? How am I going to earn my living? And the people were so enthusiastic. Whatever little they had extra, they had an extra pair of clothes. They said, you just take this and buy a new ferry. And then they had to cross the Ganges. They didn't even think twice about it. Some of them somehow or other bought or found clay pots. With their two arms, they held the clay pot to their chest and used it like a raft to float across the Ganges. There were no more clay pots. So other people saw banana trees, and they pulled down the banana tree and took the trunk of the banana tree and used it like a raft and was going across. Soon there was no more banana trees. And there were no ferries. There was no boats. So everybody else, they were so enthusiastic to see the Lord, they forgot that they didn't know how to swim. And they swam across the Ganges. By this time, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people, all in the Ganges at the same time, some holding clay pots, some holding banana trunks, and some swimming. And some didn't even know what they were doing, but somehow or other they were going. And they all crossed the Ganges. And not a single person died or got injured. Because of their enthusiasm, the Lord protected them. And then they all started running to Vidyavachaspati's house. And all the fields and the town, everything was covered with people, and everyone wanted to see the Lord. Hundreds of people started climbing the same tree in order to see above everyone else. And no tree fell down. Some were sitting on the little twig branches at the end of the tree. And nothing happened. Thousands of people went on the same little rooftop. And this is 500 years ago, Bengali rooftops in Navadweep. And no roof caved in. And people were running to Vidyavachaspati and falling at his feet and saying, please let us see the Lord. We'll do anything, everything. Give us a chance to see the Lord. And everyone started chanting because they knew that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came to the world to establish this congregational chanting of the holy names, and how he was so pleased to reveal himself when we come together without envy among each others to perform kirtan, taking shelter. So soon there were practically millions of people loudly crying out the holy names. Hearing the chanting, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared by coming out of the house. We cannot even conceive the happiness of all of these people. And he appeared in such a way that everyone could see him. And he raised his arms and told everyone to chant, Hari Hari. Hari! And everyone was chanting, Hari Hari! They were gazing upon him with great love, and he was gazing upon everyone. And chanting and chanting and chanting, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself started to dance with all of the devotees. But seeing the crowds were swelling so great, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all of a sudden slipped away and disappeared. Vidyavachaspati was looking all over for him. He couldn't find him. And then the people, after seeing the Lord, his incredible beauty and being inundated with the blessing of his loving glance, they were chanting louder and louder and louder to bring the Lord back out, but he didn't come. So some of the people went to Vidyavachaspati and said, please, I know the Lord doesn't want to be in these big crowds, but I've done so many things for you in the past. You're like my brother, I'm like your brother, I'm all alone. Please, secretly, privately, let me see the Lord again. Vidyavachaspati said, I don't know where he is. And more and more people were coming to him and asking him the same thing. And he said, I don't know, honest. And soon people started criticizing him. A sadhu is one who wants to see everyone liberated. A materialistic person just wants his own selfish desires fulfilled. Vidyavachaspati is a selfish, materialistic person. He wants to enjoy Lord Chaitanya all for himself. He doesn't care anything about us or our liberation. Let us rot in hell while he's getting liberated. Even in common conventions, if you have a large, large pot of sweets, you distribute them. You don't eat them all yourself. Lord Chaitanya is the sweetest of all sweets, and he wants to enjoy them all himself. Disgraceful, this Vidyavachaspati. On one hand, Vidyavachaspati was completely overcome that the Lord disappeared, and on the other hand, he's being criticized by anyone. He didn't know what to do. Sometimes the Lord puts his devotees in these situations. And then someone came and whispered in Vidyavachaspati's ear, the Lord has gone to the town of Kulia. So Vidyavachaspati told everybody, I just got the message, he's gone to Kulia. Let us all go to Kulia. And they all went, Hari, Hari! Hari, Hari! They had to cross the river again to get to Kulia. By this time, a lot of boats, because they understood all these people, they all came and assembled, and people got on these boats, so many, that the boats would be in the middle of the river and sink. And nobody knew swimming, and there was no life rafts. The boat would go down, 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 and as it was going down, just before it was submerged in water, it hit land. So no boat sank. But they couldn't go anywhere, so everyone just jumped off and swam. By this time, by the time these people came to Kulia, the crowd was 1,000 times bigger. Everyone was hearing the news. Nimai has returned to Navadvip. They were in Kulia, but they had no idea where the Lord was. So now Vidyavachaspati was really in a situation. He brought everyone to Kulia. But where is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? He was frantically searching everywhere. And then he found him in the house of Madhavadas. And he went to the Lord and said, you are most merciful. You are an ocean of compassion, and all these people have come to be delivered by you, especially me. Because if you don't show yourself, I'm going to be responsible for bringing them all here. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu smiled. And meanwhile, by this time, there were millions of people assembled. It was bigger than Kumbh Mela. And all of them, they knew that if they chanted the holy names and filled the world with this pure transcendental sound vibration, and they knew if they chanted with pure love and devotion in their hearts, it would attract Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to appear. So everyone with tears of devotion in their eyes, from their heart of hearts, as loud as they could, they raised their arms to chant the holy name. Echo. But nothing happened. So they chanted even louder. Still. Nothing. From their heart of hearts. They weren't just chanting, they were crying out the holy name. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared before everyone. And again raised both of his arms and told everyone, Harilo! And they were celebrating with such happiness. There were literally, among those millions of people, there were thousands of kirtan groups with their own little kirtans dancing and singing. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself began to dance with his arms raised. It was so beautiful. He captured everyone's hearts. He danced with all of these people for hours and hours and hours. Then he sat down in Madhava's house. And one by one, people were coming to offer prayers and offer their hearts. Especially people who had previously performed horrible deeds against the Lord's devotees. And people who were proud and had no devotion. One such person was Devananda Pandit. He was a great scholar of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but he explained it in his own way without any understanding of true devotion. And Devananda Pandit, once when he was reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, Srivas Thakur came to his satsang, and hearing about Krishna, Srivas went into ecstasy. And the students of Devananda Pandit physically threw him out. And Devananda Pandit did not stop them. Therefore, he could not have... If you offend devotees, you cannot understand the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But after Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, Vakreshwar Pandit, a very great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, he was performing kirtan, house to house, village to village. And Devananda Pandit saw the divine qualities of Vakreshwar Pandit, and hearing him chanting, his heart became very much affected. And he invited Vakreshwar Pandit to stay in his ashram. And Devananda Pandit was inviting people to come, and crowds were coming. He was guarding with a stick so no one would interfere with Vakreshwar Pandit's beautiful, beautiful dance. And sometimes he would massage Vakreshwar Pandit. He would clean the dust from his body while during the kirtan. And because he sincerely served a devotee, his whole heart changed, and he could realize that Lord Chaitanya, who he had neglected for so many years, was the Supreme Lord. He came there and bowed to Lord Chaitanya, but he was so embarrassed by his previous activity, he kept a distance. Lord Chaitanya saw him and said, Devananda, come here, sit with me. You have served Vakreshwar Pandit. Vakreshwar Pandit is pure in heart. Krishna always resides in his heart because of his love. And whenever Vakreshwar Pandit is, Krishna is there. Wherever Vakreshwar Pandit dances, Krishna is dancing. Because you have served him with devotion, you are my life and soul. Come here. Vakreshwar Pandit was forgiven and given the highest perfection of prema bhakti. And he asked the Lord, how should I speak Srimad Bhagavatam? And the Lord explained in much detail how the goal of the Bhagavatam is pure love. Explain every word in that context. Another Brahmin approached the Lord and said, with my mouth I have blasphemed you, I have blasphemed your devotees continually, but now I understand who you are. Please tell me, what is the remedy for what I have done? Lord Chaitanya said, if one drinks poison with his mouth, that poison will be the cause of his death. But with the same mouth, if one drinks amrita, nectar, it will not only counteract the poison, but it will bring about immortality. To criticize others is like drinking poison with your mouth, from a spiritual perspective. But to sing the names of the Lord, to sing the praises of the Lord, to sing the praises of the Lord's devotees, and to not criticize others is like drinking nectar. So speak and glorify the Lord's devotees. Don't criticize anyone. And in this mood, drink the nectar of the holy name. Lord Chaitanya was approached by Gopal Chapala in Kulia. He was so envious, so wicked in heart. He tried to destroy the reputation of Srivas Thakur. Srivas was having these kirtans in his home with Lord Chaitanya and his devotees every night. And this person was so envious at the popularity that Srivas had that he decided, I have to destroy his reputation forever. So he put he set up a puja outside of Srivas's house, which was meant for people in the mode of ignorance. The kind of puja of slaughtering animals, so that when people would come, they would think that this is what Srivas is doing. Can you imagine if Gopal Chapala had access to the internet? He would have won on a massive international campaign. But he was doing everything within his power to destroy the reputation of Srivas. And Srivas came out in the morning and saw all this set up. And instead of cleaning it away, he called the townspeople and said, I just want you to see what I do when nobody's looking. But nobody believed him. And because of that offense, Gopal Chapala got leprosy. He was suffering due to the offense he made to such a great soul. And one day, because he had leprosy in those days, he was exiled from the town. He was just living alone, suffering miserably on the bank of the Ganges in a secluded place. And one time Lord Chaitanya was walking by and Gopal Chapala came and said, please, I understand you are such a great personality. Relieve me of my suffering. I surrender to you. And Lord Chaitanya said to him, because you have offended Srivas, a devotee, my blessing is that you will suffer the same leprosy for the next 10 million births. Then the Lord walked away. He was begging forgiveness to relieve himself of his suffering, but he hadn't yet at that time actually rectified that fault-finding spirit. But now, some years later, when Lord Chaitanya came to Kulia, the leper Gopal Chapala came back to him. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you will be freed of your leprosy. delivered of all sins, and you will attain the highest perfection of life if you just get the forgiveness of Srivas. He went to Srivas, and Srivas forgave him. Srivas never thought anything bad about him. And Gopal Chapala was not only perfectly healthy, but he attained the perfection of yoga. These were some of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya in Kulia. And even today, Kuliagram, which is the modern-day Navadvip town, is a place which is renowned to be forgiven for one's sins and offenses. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed at the house of Madhava in Kulia for 1 week, meeting all of these different people by the thousands and thousands. Then he continued his journey to Vrindavan. Should I continue? Would you like to end now and continue in the evening? You are also polite. I'll continue a little longer, then I'll continue. After the Lord departed from Kulia, there was one simple brahmachari named Narasinghananda. He had no possessions. He used to just go out and beg for food, but he was a great, great devotee. And he saw the Lord going by foot all the way to Vrindavan. It's about 1,000 kilometers. And there were so many people following Lord Chaitanya by this time. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says every step that the Lord took where his foot was, people would jump to that place to get the dust where his feet was. And in this way, there were holes in the ground wherever he stepped. Hundreds of people were grabbing till there was holes. Worse than the streets in Bombay. Narsingananda Brahmachari wanted to perform seva. He wanted Lord Chaitanya to have a really comfortable, scenic journey to Vrindavan. But what could he do? He didn't have any money to hire construction companies or landscaping firms. But one thing he did have was the desire. And Krishna is bhavagrahi janardana, which means he accepts the love in the heart of his devotees. Material, spiritual. For the Lord, material is forgetfulness of something's relationship with God, and spiritual is utilizing everything in a spirit of devotion. So Narasimhananda Brahmachari sat down on a roadside to meditate. And in his meditation, he was going inch by inch, foot by foot, meter by meter, mile by mile, decorating the roads in front of Lord Chaitanya. First of all, he paved the road with gold. Then he ornamented the road with precious diamonds and rubies and emeralds and lapis lazulis and other such gems. And then to make it very soft, he covered that golden bejeweled road, which was very wide, so that the Lord and all his devotees could walk on it. He covered it with stemless flowers. Very soft lotus, champak, and jasmine, and fragrant, beautiful flower. Then on either side of the road, he constructed with his mind beautiful lakes with pristine, clear water and thousands of lotus flowers, fresh, fully bloomed at all times in the lake, and sweet bees swarming around the lotus flowers, making beautiful sounds. And around the lakes and on the sides of the road, auspicious trees like bakula trees, fully blossomed with flowers. And in his meditation, he invited the most sweet singing, beautiful birds to be filling those trees, singing sweet songs. When Lord Chaitanya was walking down the road, chanting with all his devotees, with his eyes, he only saw all around him what was in Narasimhananda Brahmachari's meditation. He felt those soft flower petals on the golden road. And he was seeing the swans singing in the lakes. Nobody else could see. Because the Lord is Bhavagrahi. He accepts the purpose of our devotion, our love. Bhava is the inner heart's desire to please the Lord with love. And when we have bhava, that's what Krishna sees. Not the thing, but the love. Because Sri Chaitanya, because the Supreme Lord, Chaitanya, he's transcendental to this material nature. For him, the reality of the meditation in the mind of the devotee and the reality of what's physically in this world, there's no difference. So Lord Chaitanya was happily enjoying everything Narasimhananda Brahmachari had created. And Narasimhananda Brahmachari did it all without spending one paisa. Hare Krishna. And the Lord also wanted to show us through this beautiful pastime that there can be no material impediment to our devotional service if we are sincere. Success, failure, all of these dualities of this world, our tendency is to judge them by physical results. But Bhagavad Gita explains that the real result is simply our sincerity. Krishna sees our sincerity. He doesn't see the physical thing. All of a sudden, Narasimhananda Brahmachari came to Kanai Natashala, one village. And as hard as he could try, he could not continue. He couldn't make the road golden. He couldn't create any lakes or trees beyond there. He tried and he tried and he tried. Then he came out of his meditation and told the devotees around him, Lord Chaitanya is not going to Vrindavan. He's going to go to Kanai Natashala and then come back. They were, what? How do you know that? He's been wanting to go to Vrindavan for so long. Now to find out exactly what happened, please come this evening for the program. And we will continue. Thank you very much.